the outtakes.
Right, this is series pretty much number 1. Ollie and I have decided to take some time out and just take the opportunity to debate, run through different things, chat health and go from there. I'm interested in what you're doing and how you see some things from a healthcare perspective in your industry, and hopefully share some things from a chiropractic and a functional medicine side of things, of where my interest, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff, because of knowing you for so long, obviously you know me, and the way our paths, like, they cross with the functional side of things, which really works in. And
also our paths getting here are very different, and we don't necessarily at the moment know where we're going because we're learning all the time.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. So from your perspective at the moment then, if we start off really the first series today of, when you look at healthcare or health around you, either the general public or also with clients that you deal with, what do you see? What the modern day healthcare or health?
It seems there's a lot of confusion. First off, people look at health as they see someone with abs and muscles and they think that's instantly healthy. Yeah. Or they see what the media here in the UK perceive as health, and you see different newspaper articles one week to the next week that are contradicting each other. And you see different specials on TV which again contradict each other. Yeah. And health in general seems just to be overwhelming because there's such a bunch of information which is thrown on you. Yeah. And suddenly you think you're doing well, and then you think, because you see something else, oh my God, what did I even try that for?
Well, and also both of us have an interest in sports and performance, and there's that perception of that endurance athlete or that high performing athlete is the epitome of health, and very often they're not. No. Their diet is rubbish, but they're good at getting the body to get a job done, but they're not necessarily healthy. When I was back in South Africa and I was still in college, one of the top runners who I ended up adjusting, I think, he was pounding out miles after miles, but he was smoking 30 or 40 a day. But because it wasn't affecting his health per se, expression of health at the time, it was quite an interesting one, saying, well, here's someone who's performing at a high level, is the epitome of health, but he's also, taking part of very unhealthy habits. So it's quite, it is, I agree, it's really confusing for the average person out there, is what is health and how do I achieve that?
Yeah, and I think using the athletes as a background there, when I worked with a guy in the Tour de France, and we see physically what they're burning, and it's 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 calories a day, and then it's saying what can the body actually effectively burn during the day? Are they using the nutrients as much as possible? And using the Tour de France as an example, 3-week endurance event, you look at testosterone levels at the start and at the end, they dip during that time.
But their focus is not necessarily, I want to maintain health, also get a piece of health.
A to B as good as possible.
Top performance, recovery, go the next day.
But people see that in the media.
Yeah.
That Chris Froome is going low carb, Chris Froome is going keto, and essentially they mix and match based on their activity levels as to how many carbohydrates they need. But the media will pick out Chris Froome is going low carb, so everyone wants to go low carb. Michael Phelps diet. Yeah. When that was
well, they read it in an article, they read something and they hear, well, this is good, this is what so-and-so does, that's what I must do. Yeah. And we've got it also now, you've got the ability of top amateur athletes to actually trying to perform, and they're training, and sometimes just as hard or just off the pros. And they're wanting that same, but they haven't got that same either support network, or down the line they're facing a big health issue as a consequence. They're ploughing in a lot of stress in the body, it's producing a lot of free radicals, they're not absorbing that and they're not counteracting, and down the line they're breaking down because of an unhealthy approach. So I think there's a lot of confusion of health, and the average person in the street is being swayed by either trends or hearsay or articles. I was seeing on Facebook the other day, there was talk of multivitamin, this vitamin, or they take magnesium, it's good for this condition. And there's a confusion about people who are looking at what do I take for specific condition versus what do I take to give the body what it needs to be healthy. There's a lot of confusion. So then it results in the confusion with the diet of low carb, high carb. Should I eat this? Atkins. Do I take fats out of the diet? Do I add fats in? And there's a lot of research has always been showing the fats have an important role. In the modern day, people are confused, saying I shouldn't eat eggs, now I should eat eggs.
It goes in trends.
Yeah.
And I think the media had a low fat phase, and then everyone went to refined sugars and processed food because they were having low fats. And then suddenly it's let's go paleo, let's go low carb, and let's go high fats, and you don't have to count anything and all this sort of stuff. And it does go in trends, and I can see there being another trend in the future, which, we're heading towards meat is bad, and then saturated fats, and then some people will say, we do need this certain amount of saturated fats. It's in having too much of something.
Yeah.
And every single person is an individual. There was a TV show recently which was about vitamins, and we discussed it the other day with regards to the multivitamins out there are based on the general needs of an average human being, not taking in an individual stress levels, not taking in whether they're an amateur athlete, not taking in their medical history, and all these things which could drain them or have them topped up with certain vitamins that we need to test.
Yeah, and people are confused of where do I turn, and that's where I think you and I, there's a lot of overlap, are positioning ourselves of where do people turn to get concrete, sound information and guidance on these things, because I'm bombarded quite a bit with recently of a lot of people saying, well, I've got XYZ, so I'm taking this multivitamin, and what I tend to say is, why are you taking that product? Why? And it's usually I read it in an article, or someone suggested this, or I thought this was a good idea. So you're getting with vitamins, you're getting a lot of people using vitamins as a therapy, unguided, whereas supplements really are there to supplement what we know we're not getting from a sound diet. So the diet, the message really for me is that the diet is the platform, is the foundation. And then should you know that either for your specific needs, you need to look at certain requirements that you're not getting from your diet, then supplementation makes sense. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are buying products which are, they're having to keep them safe. So you've got a product which has got low doses, so they know that the general population can take this to remain safe, but the general population might not be getting the benefits that they think, because they're chasing either one product. So zinc is the next thing, or like turmeric at the moment is really, really hot property. So I was in one of the well-known health food chains, and they've got a whole rack there of all the latest turmeric and curcumin supplements. And I said, well, 6-8 months ago that wasn't there. So there's an emphasis, and I've had patients going, I think I'm worried about I've got some inflammation or so I'm taking turmeric. And it's like, well, interesting why you're doing that, but there's so many other things that you can do, or ideally ask why. Why are you having that inflammation in the first place? How's your sleep? How's your diet? How's your exercise? How are you managing your lifestyle, rather than so they're almost looking at that supplement is the same as taking a drug. I'm looking for that one thing to solve this health issue, rather than asking why. Why would your body be giving you that symptom in the first place? And then we were talking the other day about lifestyle. People need to ideally connect back to what the body is designed for. What am I asking it to do? And therefore, how can I support that? And I think when you get those basic foundations right, a lot of those additional things, you don't have to be trying to chase that one thing. I'm not sleeping well, so I hear that this herb or this thing is good for sleep, rather than starting off with a question of why. Why would you not be sleeping?
But when you look at building a diet, it's the same as building a house. We need solid foundations, and that is your diet.
Yeah.
That is essentially what we need there. The foundations of your health are going to be linked with your diet and stress management. Now, if we don't get those foundations there, what a lot of people are doing is essentially building a house, which is supplements, and they've not put the foundations down. They've just put the bricks on, the mortar, and they've done some nice decorations. But there's only a matter of time before Mother Nature comes, blows the house down.
Yeah, and a lot of supplements are not presenting. They're chemically right, but they're not presenting that chemical in the right sense of how the body utilizes it.
Yeah.
So it's that always kind of, there's a very good reason why you take some supplements and the colour of your urine
Some
changes.
fat soluble, some water soluble, yeah.
So it's that multivitamin is not going to provide the same foundation as a solid diet.
And also as well, if someone has some deep-rooted issues, and you take a multivitamin which is high in certain things, and for example, very high in anxiety, and they have something which is high in copper, potentially there's a link to that, or some very deep issues that are going on with calcium, and then they end up taking the calcium high in their body, which is stopping the zinc absorption, and then just chucking more zinc at it. Yeah. They can have an overload of zinc, which it's not an issue of not having enough zinc, it's just the calcium is stopping it working. Yeah. And some things work side by side.
I was in a really interesting talk lecture on last weekend, or last Friday, was on genetics. Yeah. And how the research now with genetics and looking at different variations of your gene and how your gene expresses. You and I could have a slightly different gene variant, so we process something like vitamin C or folate or vitamin B12, or we break down waste products quicker or slower, which sometimes can be a good thing and a bad thing. And so our supplement or our energy needs are different. So when you have someone who just takes a general vitamin B supplement, its requirements or its dosage may not be the right for you or me, or I don't need some of it, and so it backs up, or I'm literally just flushing it down the toilet. So the vitamin supplement thing is something I've got more and more interested in, because it's got to be more and more specific to, as I said, supplementing that's what our training was. Supplement is to supplement what you know that you're not getting from your diet. So ideally improve the diet, and then I think a lot of people are trying to take either a supplement as a backup or insurance policy, because there's this whole debate, isn't there, of modern day farming methods and food production or so. I'm not sure that that's giving me much, so I take a multivitamin case, and there's a lot of practitioners out there who support it, and I can see why they do that, because it is insurance policy, but is this product a better insurance policy to that one, and how much are you prepared to throw? Because not all multivitamins are produced or supplying the same.
Yeah, but we talk about the farming methods. There's everyone getting their back up about the fact that here in the UK we're importing foods. Yeah. Now, we don't have the climate all year round to have certain foods. However, as society, where years ago, I mean, even like 20 years ago, I can remember when we didn't have certain foods at certain times of the year, and now
if you want strawberries all year, you eat a strawberry all year. It's not the same product all year.
Yeah, but it comes from different places, because we still want strawberries all year. Yeah. And to get the most nutrients that we can into that food, you're not going to be able to farm from the UK all the time. Yeah. And people hate the fact that you look at your food and it's come from Morocco, it's come from Spain, it's come from wherever it's come from. But if people still want that, they need to realise that you can't have it from the UK all the time.
Well, strawberries, I associate strawberries with Wimbledon. Yeah. And when you eat strawberries around Wimbledon, it's a totally different taste, flavour, juiciness than something which, February.
And there may be methods that are artificial as such to allow strawberries to be produced here in the UK, which are potentially expensive, which are going to push the price of strawberries up, but also how effective is that of getting the nutrients into those strawberries as they grow?
Well, that's what interests me with the functional medicine movement, because the functional medicine is saying, let's measure these things. So let's get a better understanding of you, your health, and what your body systems are telling us, so that we can be more specific. So do we need to improve the gut bacteria, or generally taking probiotics is a good idea, but do we need to do that or not? And that's where the functional testing is really good. A bit like with the vitamin D, our interest in vitamin D is basically because we know from now through the winter people aren't going to produce vitamin D. So a lot of people say, well, I'll take some vitamin D, but the question then is what dose? So we know that a safe range for most people, so we've got to stay in that safe range. But do we need to elevate someone's vitamin D? Do we need to maintain it? Or actually, do we need to watch out for toxicity, which is very rare, but it's still a reality. And you only know ways of measuring your vitamin D levels. But so most people come and go, well, yes, I'm interested, and then we can work out a dosage of vitamin D over the next 3 months. And when we've retested it, we can kind of almost predict what we can get it up to an optimum level. Or most people say, well, I take a multivitamin and it's got some vitamin D in, but again, the level is so low because it needs to be safe for the general population. You don't know who's getting your hand on it.
And
so they may not be doing it.
So testing methods that you can get potentially on the NHS, and thyroid is one of the big ones here.
Yeah.
And there's a borderline high and there's a borderline low. And there's these two markers. Ideally, we want it to be in the middle somewhere. But if you're 1 over low, or what would be classed as low, you're still going to be classed as okay in NHS. Now, if you're 1 under what would be classed as high, you're still going to be classed as okay. So there's this big range here based on the average person, and
that's the idea of having a track record, so you can see if it's fluctuating.
And same with testosterone levels. Testosterone levels, even 10, 15, 20 years ago, of our parents, their parents, the testosterone would have been higher, because in the society we live in, it's seen the average testosterone levels have gone down. I don't know the exact percentage, but they've gone down. Now, we live in a stressful society. Over 30, as soon as you hit 30, the average person loses about a percentage of their testosterone per year for every year afterwards. Now, if someone sleeps for 6 hours or less for 2 weeks, their testosterone levels can go down 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
And people say, I get 4 hours, 5 hours sleep. And you think all these things that are adding up, which are causing the issues.
Testosterone is an interesting one also, because testosterone is produced from cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
So, and cholesterol is associated with cortisol and stress. And if your body's stress levels shift, it produces away from testosterone and goes more into estrogen.
But then we need cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, which people
but if
then...
But if the cholesterol's higher, then you go on a statin
to
deplete it, but you're not addressing the stress levels, so the stress is going to hit you somewhere else. So yes, testosterone levels may come down, so therefore other factors come in, and you can see the snowball.
It's the stress.
So stress is a big one.
It's probably
I think at some stage we'll probably do more of a focus on stress and stress management, because that is a big thing, because there's such a ripple effect on things. The lectures on the weekend show the biomechanical pathways through to how certain genes can be performing below par, but then added stress and then caffeine, alcohol, all these blockers result in low levels of testosterone, low levels of dopamine, serotonin, and you can see the potential of why a lot of modern day health issues are coming in the 40, 50 years old, because the pressures of either work, family, demands. And so they show symptoms coming out of the body just saying, I'm battling with the modern day stress. And so we plaster it over with different, even therapies of supplement therapies, or what's the latest thing I can take to help me with my sleep, rather than saying, what's the cause?
We have a lot of intravenous therapies now as well, which is big in London, it's big in LA when I've been over there, where people will go out, get wasted, and then the next morning they'll wake up, they'll have an intravenous therapy.
Shot.
Yeah, and they'll have that. And I think it was actually yesterday, I believe Sami Nasri got banned for using intravenous. You don't know exactly what it was, but he had this therapy, and that was actually banned, classed as performance enhancer. Now, what else is that doing to live that and keep topping up with artificial?
Well, it's just a band-aid, isn't it? It's a band-aid to say, my body's giving me feedback that is functioning below optimal, below what I want. So what can I do to give it a boost to get what I want? It's a bit like going back to the cycling analogy. My focus is just over the next month, or I've got this meeting, or I've got that performance, or I've got exams, I need to just get through. But long term, they're repeated. In wellness paradigms, we talk along the lines of that we are animals in captivity. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to force ourselves to perform and function in a totally different environment. Like this time of year in winter, the rest of the certainly animal species is going into hibernation or shutting down, but we're still trying to do the same routine Monday to Friday in December than we do in January. In July, August.
and
which
the
is quite,
working hours are getting longer.
Yeah, so you know the change in light and everything affects us. So this leads to all that confusion of what we're doing. So how do you work with a client then when they come to you and they go, I've come to you because I've got X, Y, Z?
The first thing is finding out what their hustle is, I'm going to say, because of how stressed people are. What is causing them to have this hustle mentality with go, go, go? So
what's the usual thing that someone comes with you, a client generally would come to you for? They want to get fitter, they want to become leaner, they want to lose weight, or is it more that they're knackered, or what?
It's more now, it's getting more to the point where they're tired. They wake up tired, they go to sleep and they're wired, and they know that they've put on a few pounds and they want to be dropping the weight, but essentially there's other things now which people come to me. They're losing focus, they're low on energy throughout the day, whereas before it was specifically for sports performance. Working with the business guys now, people that are entrepreneurs, people that are over 30, specifically over 30, working ridiculous hours, they've got a family, and they get to the end of the week and they get to the weekend and they're just so tired they can't even play with their kids. And it's getting to like the real life health situation.
I mean, I fit into your demographic because it's a case of, you know, you've got now your career going, you've got the kids, you've got the business, you've got everything, but you are now juggling so many things, and then, oh, by the way, I need to also look after myself. And you've got to find energy and focus for all those things.
Yeah.
So the modern day life is tough. And then on the other hand, you've also got, you know, the housewife or stay-at-home husband who's juggling all the kids kind of thing.
Yep. So
it's not only the businessman or the worker.
There's
juggling so much.
But a lot of the times, and Tony Robbins said it, that when I tried to lose weight and get in shape, it was hard and it didn't give me any productivity in my business. But when I looked at increasing my energy, I lost weight, I got in better shape, and I got so much more out of my business that I was able to work less.
So what's the key of increasing your energy?
A lot of times it's going to be diet and stress management. What stress is that diet? Sleep, yeah. Getting the sleep in. What stress is that? Is your current diet putting on your body? Because it's going to be putting a lot of stress on your body if it's not the right stuff. Now, is it as simple as taking gluten out and dairy out? No. Now, do people react to that? Yes. Do as many people as we think react to that? Not as much as you think.
And it's the same mindset, isn't it? What one thing can I do? So I'm going to try gluten-free, or I'm going to try low carb, or I'm going to try this. It's not seeing that whole picture of, you know, exercise, the appropriate type of exercise. Because some also go, I hear that, you know, high intensity is good, but they're already knackered. All their energy levels and reserves are knackered.
Some people
and then they go and blast it, and they go, I'm feeling worse, or they get ill. Because the body just goes, whoa, what are you doing? This is another stress.
This time of year, people get ill. One, the vitamin D. Yeah. But working with
this is the toughest time on the body, going from autumn into winter. The body.
Year we've had, well, around the world, the climate has been different around the world this year. I've noticed more people have seasonal affectional disorder now than I've seen in the history of the 10 years I've been in this industry. Okay, the first 3 or 4 years I may not have understood what it was, but as soon as I found out what it was, now I noticed, because we had such a hot summer and the temperature hasn't really gone up and down, lows are slowly going down, but it's still pretty warm for a November. We're actually suffering psychologically because of it. And a lot of people get ill this time of the year. I work with a lot of Americans and they're coming up to their Thanksgiving, their holiday season is starting. After Halloween, people start taking vacations and holidays, whatever we want to call it, wherever we are in the world. But as soon as we stop, the body sometimes, 9 times out of 10, decides to say, oh, I don't have to hold up right now.
I think thanks to now I can process.
How many people have colds over Christmas?
Yeah, it's the one who goes away, they work, then they go, summer holiday, got 2 weeks off, go away, the first week they're ill.
Yeah.
And the body says, right, thanks for now the opportunity. And that's because adrenaline drops. You pump, go, adrenaline drops, and the body goes, great, now I can process what I need to do. You've now given me the opportunity.
The body's a brainy thing, and we have it on that sprint mode for so long.
Yeah.
Now, who's going to win in a race between Mo Farah and Usain Bolt in a marathon? Usain's going to be faster for the first 100 metres, and then he's going to burn out. Well, after about 400 metres probably. And the person that goes slower but steadier is going to get further.
Well, growing up in South Africa, the idea of SADS was non-existent. Never really even had that the concept until coming over to this country. And then
was there change of climate, like summer to winter?
Well, where I grew up, it was a very small difference. There's a difference in temperature, but not a difference really or hugely in light quality. And I tend to look at it really from a quality of light. If you go back to South Africa this time of year, you go straight really into early summer, and you get the blue, the greens, the quality light, your brain kind of fizzes, it's alive. When you come back here, if anyone goes away in the middle of winter for winter sun, when you come back, you see the UK for what it really is, of how dull it is.
Yeah.
Because you come in directly, modern day travel, flip side right into winter, and it's great. The quality of light, and you feel that you're in late evening, getting ready for bed all day, and then after 3 or 4 days you're acclimatized. So it's not jet lag, especially from South Africa, but it's the lack of light, and the light stimulating the pineal gland, stimulating the brain. So that's how I see a lot of SADS.
And people go to work earlier and leave later. So they're going to work in the dark and leaving it.
Yeah. So and then it's artificial light through the day.
Yeah.
So do you impress more people of that element of it's a holistic approach? So in chiropractic wellness, we'll talk along. The nervous system and how the nervous system body is what we work with, but it's no use clearing those channels and getting adjusted and then going and not understanding what the stresses are. So we talk along physical, emotional, and chemical stresses, and looking at all those and trying to get away from people thinking about what's the one thing I'm doing wrong, or because very seldom is.
And one thing is the way I help people manage stress as well.
Yeah.
Because in the psychological aspect of it, the mindset of it, I go deep into the mindset of things. It's not
You've
just
spoken a lot about accountability.
It's accountability, it's mindset. It's not simply here's a meal plan, follow it, because some people don't want to follow the meal plan. My job as a coach, as a health optimization coach, is to educate people. Some people that have worked for 2-3 years, and there's been reasons because they just like that accountability. And my job is 6-8 months. That person can be like, yeah, cool, Ollie. You know what? I'm ready to go alone now. The lion leaving. Hang on, is it the herd?
Pride.
Yeah. Like the lion leaving there, and it's the young Simba growing up. Yeah. And essentially, it's.
But then you're still a resource, and still people can say, I need some clarification.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Tap into them. It's still there for them.
But the actual one thing, we can only ever do one thing at a time. Yeah. And a lot of times we're stressed because we've got people's bosses just pushing them to do different things. Then they've got an email going off, they've got Facebook going off, they've got someone else here saying this and someone saying that, but we can only ever do one thing. Yeah. Now, we'll have that at home where we'll be watching TV, we'll be having WhatsApp or scrolling through Facebook, and it's just easy to get caught up in different screens. Now, if we can focus on one thing and actually learn to zone into that one thing, then we can get more done. Yeah. And that goes the same with if I'm writing an email, or I'm writing an article, or recording a podcast, or whatever it is, that it's going to be a case of, well, if I can focus on specifically that, great, that's perfect. I know we're both getting put off by the beep here, but it's going to be a case of, well, we need to focus as much as possible, and there are going to be distractions. But it's essentially learning to be able to zone in and realise you can only do one thing at a time if you want to do something to your best.
So also on a general health thing, there's so many systems out there which are working against us. You know, from, as you say, from a focus and a mindset perspective and a stress level, social media, emails. You know, we can respond to work emails at any time of the day now, so that there's there's no real distinction between different parts of our lives. It's all a blur. And then, you know, there's powers that be out there who want to entice us to make different food choices, which aren't necessarily in our best health interests. You know, marketing and food.
Marketing is powerful.
And then you've got, you know, the chemical aspects of exposure to different chemicals. So it's really, as you said, going back to the whole thing, it's really confusing.
It's very confusing, and also the human brain wants to pull you towards the easiest, the path of least resistance.
Well, and the human brain is still very much in its basic form. It's reproduce, it's survival, it's food, and many people tend to think, oh, hunter-gatherer, they were fit, they were athletic. But if you look at hunter-gatherer, if they had plentiful, they didn't sit there and go, you know what, I'm feeling a bit tired, you know, we haven't been doing much this morning, I'm going to go for a run. They didn't do that. If they had plentiful, they lounge around. They're like a pride of lions. If the belly's full and everything's there, save energy, because survival may need that I need to conserve my energy. So we are, as I said, we're animals in captivity. We are overstimulated, we're undernourished, and we're overstressed, and then we're trying to do all those main functions.
Awareness is the big thing.
Yeah.
Awareness and also perspective. Now, there's a guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, that I follow massive in the entrepreneurial world. He's a big entrepreneur in New York, and he said that once you put things into perspective, then when you're moaning about how bad your day is, there are 7 billion people on Earth, and if you put them from 1 to 7 billion, for starters, his stuff's on podcasts, his stuff is on YouTube, his stuff is on the internet. You're going to be watching it with an iPhone, you're going to be watching it with an Android, a Samsung, or whatever it is. And if you're between 1 and if you're 7 billion in the world, you've got a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be anywhere near that. You're going to be in the upper half if you're watching this.
Well, they say these days there's more mobile phones around than there are people.
Exactly. And you look in perspective that you're a human being as well. You could have been a fly. You could have been a gnat. That you've already won the lottery. When we look at perspective with that, the amount of power that human beings is has gone completely off the health track. But when we put things into perspective, when we're going through a low patch, first off, it's going to feel pretty rubbish to be in a low patch, and there's a lot of depression around. But when you look at perspective of it, and don't get me wrong, I've had anxiety attacks, as we know when I left.
Yeah, as we stated the other day, neither you and I are, perfect, and it would be wrong for someone to portray themselves as perfect.
Yeah, and also like, when you're in that situation, you feel like you're 7 billionth in the world.
Yeah.
And it's easy enough to say to someone who's very depressed, who's anxious, to say, look, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
But when you get out of that and you realise, hang on, it wasn't as bad as that. When I lost my role at an insurance company, it was one of the best things that happened, because it made me push to follow my passion.
Yeah, and it's the old thing of through hardship comes growth, and you learn a lot about you. Yeah. So I know, because time's ticking on.
Yep.
And we've covered a lot of different aspects of general health without necessarily specifics. So we want to go forwards and do different debates, different workshops.
Yeah, we've already got loads of notes, so I don't think we've touched on even a quarter of what
what would be good, and we're going to put this out certainly through YouTube and Facebook, and we're going to, for both our respective social media platforms. One thing which we really encourage from people who have an interest in what we're talking about and covering, if there's certain topics or certain areas of confusion within healthcare which we can help you with or elaborate, obviously it's not the platform to look at in the true sense of addressing a specific health issue, but if there's confusion of, I'm confused about different diets, or why would low carb, high carb, this, that, is it a dietary thing? Is it a supplement? Is it a mindfulness? What can I do to manage stress? Let us know. Put it into comments. Put it into emails. We really want to take this platform forwards and encourage debate. Encourage people to be curious about their health, what avenues, and we can hopefully expand on some things of interest. So we're here for each other. We want this platform to help us and learn and grow, but more importantly also for our respective clients and our community to expand and ask better questions. So we're here for you to help, and please fire away and let's take this further. And we're going to look to try and do, every fortnight, but we may even add different ones in if something's more topical coming up. Then let us know, and let's develop this into something bigger.
Definitely.
All right.
It's been great.
Excellent. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
We'll go from there.
Cool.